Bitfarms is in major trouble. Bitcoin is holding at that $105,000 range. We're going to talk about all these things and a little bit more today. But before we get going, check out Capital Curiosities. They talk about financial histories, scams, frauds, all sorts of things that are related to finance throughout history. Go ahead and check them out. They have some really interesting stories there. They came out with the newest episode on Sunday, Germany's Enron, the Wirecard fraud. That's a very interesting episode. I watched that one. Go ahead and check them out. Link in the description. All right, let's move on. So what's going on with Bitfarms? So why am I at Riot, you might ask? Well, you can see here on May 27th, so just a few days ago, they filed a Form 144. What is that? That's an insider selling report there. And if we go and we look at that filing data, let's bring that up here. You can see that, let's see, issuer information, Bitfarms. They're going to sell Bitfarms. And who's the owner? Riot. Riot will be selling their Bitfarms. How much are they selling, you might ask? Well, let's take a look here. Number of shares or units to be sold. This is, what is this? This is 90 million shares. That's all their shares, by the way, because they have about 20-ish% of Bitfarms. Bitfarms has an outstanding amount of shares of 555 million shares, and they're going to sell about 90 million shares. Okay, so it's not quite 20%, something like maybe 16%, but they could sell upwards of 16% of all the stock in Bitfarms. All right, what does that mean? That means bad news if you're still holding Bitfarms. Okay, if you've been with us for a while, you know I got out of Bitfarms around the mid twos. I got out around here like 220, 230. That's where I got out because I saw the institutions weren't buying. I didn't like the drama with Riot. The management seemed ineffective at Bitfarms, and I was just not about it anymore. So I got out. And I told everyone that I was doing that, and I told everyone why and when. All right, where are we now? Now we're trading at less than $1. We're at 93 cents. We've been as low as 67 cents. Okay, if Riot comes through and sells, let's call it 16% for the sake of measuring, sell 16% of all the stock, we could easily move back down to 76.81 cents off of that alone. Okay, off of that alone, we could move down that far. But that's not where those things tend to end. You get 10% plus of a stock's entire amount available sold off within a few days. You're going to get a lot more than a 10% drop. You're going to get more like a 20 or a 30% drop. So we could easily retest the lows down here around 67 cents, maybe even come lower into the 50s. On Bitfarms. So be aware of that. Now, how far have we fallen just since that announcement on May 27th? May 27th was back here, and Bitfarms was trading at $1.07. How far have we fallen since then? Well, let's see. We fell initially. Look at that. We fell exactly 16.63%. Maybe Riot already got out. Who knows? Well, let's take a look at the volume, actually. Let me see here. Where is that? There we go. Let's see the volume per day. 40 million, 10 million. No, they haven't sold all of theirs. They couldn't have possibly sold all of theirs. Well, maybe 40 and 10. That's about 10 and then 12 and then 9. Yeah, right. Could have sold it all. That's enough volume. There was enough volume here. And look at how much on May 27th. Look at how much larger these two volume bars are. We went through $40 million or 40 million shares nearly of Bitfarms on May 27th, and then on the 28th, another 40 million shares of Bitfarms were traded, big red candle, and then nearly 11 million on the 29th, and then on the 30th, another 12 million. Yeah, they could have traded it out already, so they could have gotten out. I mean, that's basically the exact amount that Riot owns that we've moved down in terms of percentage wise. Like we came all the way down, boom, lowest low, 16, a little over 16%. Riot could be out. They could be out. So is this thing going to continue to fall? Maybe. I'd watch right now, but there is a little bit of hope. So there's a bit of hope with Bitfarms. Now that Riot isn't going to have their claws in Bitfarms anymore, and if Bitfarms can get past their ineffective management and institutions see that Riot no longer has their claws in their backs, and Bitfarms management can show that they are going to move forward competently, as soon as it gets back over $1.20, I'm interested. I'd be interested potentially. potentially, because it had a big dramatic fall. We're getting this kind of head and shoulders came through. We came to nearly the bottom of it. I'd say we still probably need to touch like 87 cents. And then it'll start turning around and coming to the equilibrium on the volume profile over here. Just getting to equilibrium on the volume profile. That's $2.12. That would be, 100, not quite a dollar move from where I'm interested at, which is $1.20, because I really want to see it get above all of this resistance right here, which is ends at $1.20. I'd need to see that. And you can also see on the volume profile here at about 114, the volume shelf starts to fall off, and there's a big gap all the way up to 142. And then once you cover 142, there's another big gap up to about 170, and then once you cross that, there's another big gap up to about $2. So watching that real carefully. So it's interesting to see that saga is finally coming to a close. Riot is finally done toying with them. They tried to take them over, didn't work. They fought back, not the best way, but they did. They ended up taking their own poison pill, issuing hundreds of millions of shares in order to fight Riot. And a couple of years later, Riot took a massive loss on all of their Bitfarms shares. And now here we are. So we're going to watch Bitfarms a little bit, see what they do. I'm somewhat interested there. Okay. Oh, one other piece of news, BitDigital. BitDigital is buying a site in the United States in North Carolina. I believe it's a 1 million square foot, 200 megawatt site that they're buying in North Carolina. It was something like 48, almost $50 million that they paid for this. And it's starting to get some nice moves up from that. So I'm actually looking at BitDigital again, potentially. We've got that inverted head and shoulders down here. We've got a shoulder, head, another shoulder coming through. This could take us all the way back up to about almost $4. We do have some nice big gaps in the volume profile here, above 245 all the way up to about $3. And then again from 327 up to about 370, 380 there on the volume profile. So there's some hope there. We are getting the inverted head and shoulders. They are coming out with good news about getting some AI sites on American soil, which is pretty good for them in terms of getting that AI spend coming out of the US. So that's pretty great. They're probably doing that strategically because there are some companies and some information that they don't want leaving the borders of the United States for crunching those numbers. So that's probably a nice, important strategic thing that they're deciding to do there at BitDigital. So I'm now watching BitDigital again. And especially with Ethereum coming back, Ethereum is showing some signs of life as well. It is holding up better than its peers. It is creating a nice big bull flag right here. And if Ethereum plays out on this one, we could easily see this thing coming back toward the highs around $4,000 just off of this bull flag all by itself, which would be a huge bumper to BitDigital as well. So BitDigital is back on my radar after this huge drop from about $6 all the way down to $1.68. BitDigital is now back on my radar once more for potentially a move up to about $4. If Ethereum can take off, maybe a move back up to almost $6 from here, which would be, let's see what kind of nice big move that would be, which would be a nice move of what, about 150-ish% from its current prices. So that's not bad at all. So I'm interested once more. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Of course, I haven't bought anything yet, by the way, for BitDigital or Bitfarms. Bought none of that. I'm just talking about it. It's back on my radar. Of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. Please do your own research, come to your own conclusions, be responsible for your own risk. One other thing. I did buy some Doge. I bought some Doge. I noticed these candles coming in here, these wicks on bottom with these hammer candles over and over and over and over again on Doge. And I've also noticed that we were getting some on lower time frames. Let's see here. Yeah, the RSI. So we're getting like the same low with growing RSI. That was nice. We're also seeing on the BX trender that turned light red. So I am watching that. I think that Doge, it came up, right? It came down, and it has some room now to move back up once more. So I got some Doge around 19 cents. I'm looking for a move up to about 38 cents. That's where my alert is to sell some. But it might go higher than that. It might even go up to like 61 or 69. Those are my ranges that I'm looking at for Dogecoin, just to keep everyone in the loop on that. I did purchase some more Dogecoin here in the last couple of days. All right, let's take a look here at Bitcoin. So what did Bitcoin do? So remember I said Bitcoin was going to fall more, and it did. It fell more. It came within $1,000 of my target. I said it was going to come down to about 102,000. It hit 103,200. So it was pretty close, pretty close. Then we started climbing up one more time. We are looking for a swing low now. Okay. So basically, if price this week does not go beneath 103,000, that's the swing low. All right. If price goes back under that, that's a major problem. I'm going to be talking invalidation. Okay. Now, but there is, so we'll say one thing. It's got a few days to make a move. I am still looking at a head and shoulders. I'm still looking at this being a head and shoulders with a potential bottom around $95,000. I am still looking at that. That could still happen. What I'm saying is if within like the next week or so, it doesn't go back beneath 103,000, I'm going to say that the head and shoulders is off the table, that this is the 103 is the swing low, max drawdown is $100,000. If we go back beneath $100,000, I will be cutting a lot of trades. That's what that means. Okay. But right now, if in the next week, like the next 4 or 5 days, we see a flush down to 95,000, I'm not going to say anything's over. That is just the head and shoulders playing out. Okay. That's all. That's all I'm saying there. So that's what we're watching for right now. I really want to see it get above this line up here, this one that I've just got highlighted. I really want to see it get above that line. If it went there today, it'd be $108,000. I really want to see that happen because that would be that takeoff point. Now, if we go to global liquidity and we try to line it up with global liquidity here, let me turn off my drawing so you can see it a little bit better. All right, we'd line it up with global liquidity. Look at that. So we had our little spike right here with it, our other little spike right there with it. It's a little bit off, but then that flat part at the bottom, which is what we're getting through right now. And then what happened after that? Nice little climb up. Where was that climb up end? About 117,000-ish or so before coming right back down to about $108,000, $109,000. Look at that. Wow. So we get that. We get that move, right? And then it comes back, maybe taps 110, 108 from above, and then we can move ourselves up to 120, potentially. And that is, I believe, the highest that global liquidity has gone right now. Is kind of like that's that peak. And that would line up with about that $120,000 range there. So, and then we start going into the back end of summer at that point, and that's where we get that sell-off into September before we reload again for the back end of 2025. So I'm following this fractal pretty closely right now. This is global liquidity. Bitcoin loves to follow global liquidity. This is what I am watching right now for my Bitcoin predictions, by the way. And if you don't have the indicator or you missed it the last time I brought it up, go to favorites on mine, and we go down to global liquidity index by quantitative A something. I don't know what it says after that, but this one right here, global liquidity index quantitative A ... That's the one with, and then I came in and I do an offset of about 92 days, a 92-day offset. That seemed to line up pretty good here, not perfect, but pretty good. And that's when I said, hey, this is going to come down. It came down. It went flat. I said, hey, it's going to go flat. It went flat. I said, hey, it's going to start going up. It's starting to go up. So let's pay attention to this line very carefully. All right. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Check out the Trade Cave store. Link in the description as well as the channel bio. Don't sleep on Capital Curiosities. They drop a new video every single week about some interesting thing that happened in the world of finance, usually some sort of fraud or scam. And have a profitable day.